Hello, hello, and welcome back to another one of my ASMR videos. Today, I will be cooking a high protein and fiberful pasta bake. I'm basically just doing a voiceover for this one because my kitchen is really loud and I was also listening to music, which, can you blame me? Most people like to do that. So to start off, we are going to cut the tender stem and then end up dicing it afterwards. I'm gonna have a list of all of the ingredients in the description, and I hope that everyone enjoys the video. So as you can see, I'm just dicing them up until they get a bit thick at the ends, because my arms are still quite damaged from when I broke them. So I basically just go until they give too much resistance. And then, as you can see, I've done that. Now I'm going to start dicing. This doesn't really take me too long. I'm quite quick when it comes to dice, but you don't need to rush it, as you just want to make sure that all the pieces are evenly cut. Today, I don't know if I've said, but I will be tapping in the background as to fit the theme of an ASMR video. And yeah, I hope that this style of video is well received, as I genuinely love to cook. As you can see, I'm pretty much done with cutting the tender stem. There isn't really that many ingredients in the whole thing. It's a pretty simple dish, and it's high protein as well, which I've already said, but I eat it quite often, as it's really good. But here we're going to start cutting some babycorn. I've decided to opt for the full packet. Usually I only do half a packet, as I was cooking for my family today. Sorry about the cut there. I think something happened basically where I had to stop the video. I think it was probably storage. But yeah, I've opted for the full packet, as my family, I was cooking for them. I wanted to cook for my mum before I went back to my hometown in Newcastle. Well, not hometown, this is my hometown, but back to my actual home. And babycorn are pretty easy to dice up. They don't really take that long, so I don't really care about rushing. These are actually quite big ones. I tend to buy the smaller ones, but my mum opted for the bigger ones today, as I just basically told her the ingredients for her to buy, and then she bought them. So yeah, I don't think there's much left of cutting the babycorn. So I will just basically cut forward a little bit. So now that I have got the babycorn fully cut up, I will be adding it all to the pan, which is just out of frame over there. So this is all of the veg that we have so far, and I'm gonna, as I said, go and put it on the pan. Make sure before you put your veg in and everything else that we are lightly coating our pan in oil, as it will allow for a better flavouring of everything in the pan. I also do want to apologise if you can hear anything in the background, as my sister is currently playing music at the moment. So if you can hear that, I sincerely apologise. And now I'm going to get a few mushrooms out. I'd say I'm getting about 6 out, yeah. And then we're going to start dicing them all up. Mushrooms are pretty quick and easy. I use the full thing. I know a lot of people don't like the stalks, but I just personally prefer them because I don't like food to go to waste, and I feel like they are such a massive part of the food itself to throw them and make them go to waste. So I have started cutting up these onions in mushrooms, pretty even parts. And they don't take long at all to dice up, as you can see in the video. They're pretty quick to just dice up themselves, as they're obviously small and pretty smooth. I also do apologise that the prep section of this video is also quite long compared to the actual cooking itself. It's due to me not really being able to record while cooking, which is why when we get to the parts that I will be cooking, I will show you clips at certain stages where you may need to do certain things, like add certain things in, and also like maybe do mixing, etc. But here I am just cutting a few extra mushrooms because I thought the pile that I had wasn't enough compared to how much I was wanting to make. Again, beware that this is a amount for about 3 to 4 people, and make sure to cook safely and accordingly. These are also the last of the mushrooms that we will be cutting, and then we will shortly be moving on to cutting the final 2 veg, which will be up in a second. Yeah, I think that is the mushrooms done. And we are going to go over to cutting up the courgette. As you can see, I'm just trying to make the kitchen as tidy as possible, as working in a dirty kitchen is hell. And yeah, try and make sure you keep your space clean and organised during the whole thing. So I will be washing the courgette, and then we can get started. Make sure that you're washing all your veg. I know I didn't do it at the start, but we're going to be cutting the head and the tail off the courgette, as you don't really want to eat those. And then I'll throw them in the bin, and then we can get started. We are going to cut it through the middle, and then after that we are going to cut them into thin slices, as it allows them to cook quicker and gives them a really soft texture when you're eating. We're just going to chop it up. And I actually did this quite quick. I usually take my time, but I guess I was impatient, or I've just got used to doing it that many times, as I have probably cooked this dish at least a couple 100 times. No, not that many, but at least a few, 50-ish, 50, 60 times. You know, that's what happens when you cook meals for yourself. You tend to just cook the same few meals and repeat those over and over again, as it allows you to save money in the long run. Also, don't judge my weird knife technique with my hand. It's just something I picked up when I worked in a kitchen for a short period of time. And now we're going to add everything to the pan. I do apologise that the camera work's not best. I struggled with the heavy chopping board, with my arms still being damaged. Anyway, we are going to move on to the next step of this segment, which is cutting up the pepper. I'm trying to cut it in a way where I'm creating as little waste as possible, which I'm literally just getting rid of the top and the seeds, allowing me to have the majority of the pepper to use in cooking. I did have 2, but I couldn't be bothered doing 2. I felt like that would be too much and it would make the whole dish a bit unbalanced, as I don't want one flavour to take over from the rest. I like to make things pretty evened out, as it'll just make it better for the whole experience. Anyway, I'm not too particular about how I cut my peppers. I just cut them into small enough pieces as to where they cook at a similar speed to everything else in the dish, as obviously that is what you hope to do, is you want everything to cook evenly and nicely. As you can see, I'm basically done, as I literally don't give much care to how thinly or thick the peppers are cut, as long as they're a decent size and around about the same. But yeah, let's move on to the next segment, as I'm just going to skip forward a little bit. Now that we have the peppers all cut up and everything, we're going to go ahead and add them into the pan. And now I think that is the last veg that we are going to cut up, and we will move on to the next section. So we are going to be getting our chicken out of the packet. Today I've only opted to do, I think, 2 chicken breasts, as I think that would be enough for the family. And as you can see, I'm just dancing around like an absolute idiot. But yeah, I tend to cook my chicken in a way that, as I said, they cook around the same rate as the veg. So I'll be cutting, sorry. I'll cut them into small bits that allow me to cook them at the same rate as the veg. So yeah, as you can see, it's gone pretty easy. You can also change up, obviously, the measurements of what you want, depending on how chickeny you want the food and how veggie you want it to taste, as well as you can change the stock, etc., whether you want it to be chopped tomatoes or passata, stuff like that. You don't have to follow the veg directly past the bags. You can basically just chuck whatever you want in there, but yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna do a little bit of tapping just until I've finished cutting the chicken, and then I will show you what to do next. So now that we have our chicken all cut up, make sure that you don't touch any other surfaces or anything like that with the hands that you've touched chicken with. As you can see, I only use my right hand here, as that is the hand that I haven't touched the chicken with. Chicken. And today we have a 5 spice list, which is going to be onion granules, which were very hard to get out, by the way. I think they were expired, as I banged them and literally nothing would come out. But yeah, great. As you can see when I open this, green bits of the lid tend to go everywhere because somehow I broke the plastic with how hard I pressed down on it. Yeah, I managed to get bits of onion out and then mix them in. So yeah, we're going to start off with onion, and then some, I'm pretty sure this is parsley. Yeah, it is. Sorry about the camera, I did want it to focus, but it was being really stubborn. We are going to both season the chicken and the stock mix, which will be shown later on. As I tend to like to season both, it just makes life a lot more easier. We're also going to add oregano, and yeah, there it is, trying to focus the camera, but sorry about that. And then, yeah, you don't have to add too much, just about half a teaspoon, maybe a teaspoon. And I also add some Cajun. As you can see, a lot of my parents' seasonings are quite stuck together and out of date, I think. I don't know if they're out of date, but they're more so just stuck to the inside of the container. I don't know why, but yeah. I add about a teaspoon of Cajun to the chicken, and I'd say around similar amounts of paprika, which I'm showing now. And yeah, that's all the seasonings I'm going to add to the chicken today. And then you just basically give it a good old mix with your hand, as basically until it's all mixed evenly through. A lot of the time it is a pain to get it evenly mixed, as obviously you put the seasoning on the top and then you're trying to mix it in. But yeah, try to get it as even as possible, as you want the whole chicken to be coated with the seasonings. It should be done around here. And yeah, that's all of the prep work done basically. Here I show you the chicken as it should look, which is evenly coated with seasoning apart from that one bit on the bottom. Other than that, that's like all of the seasoning work done and all the prep work other than the stock and the pasta, which I will show you right after I've washed my hands, which you should be doing anytime you touch any raw meat. But yeah, now we're going to add the chicken to the pan while I have a little dance. I'm pretty sure Michael Jackson's playing. But yeah. So I just did a quick sweep of the area, and now we're going to add the chicken to the pan with all of the veg, and that is all the prep work done. Now I'm going to basically show you everything as it should look like, as right now this is what your pan should be looking like, and you should only have a few ingredients left to add after we've cooked. So we're going to turn it on a high heat to begin with, and then lower it down to around medium when it's started to cook the outside of the chicken, just to get a nice outside crisp on it. Yeah, I'll show you the second part. So now I'm going to show you how to make the stock, which is just some chicken stock cubes, a bit of parsley, and add that in there. It didn't want to come out, so I had to open the back of it. But yeah, also some oregano. It's basically just the same combination as the last chicken. So Cajun and Paprika as well, yeah. Basically all that. And then make sure to have boiling water and mix it together. So also make sure that your stock cube is properly dissolved, as I didn't, and I had to mix it in while cooking the food, which wasn't exactly the most convenient, but yeah. You can basically add how much stock you like as long as you're patient enough for it to boil down, which is totally up to you, and I honestly don't mind. But it's just, I had around 400 mils per stock cube, and yeah, I'm going to mix it together. And then I will show you what to do after this. Basically all we have to do is now boil our pasta, add chopped tomatoes and the stock once it is cooked through the veg and chicken, as well as when you add the stock and tomato, you add lots of black pepper, aka peppercorn. So now I'm adding around 3/4 of the pasta bag to the pot with, as I'd say that I'd serve around 3 to 4 people. One person if you're really hungry, I guess. Just a little dance break. You know, I'm getting into the groove. As I tend to when I'm cooking, as I really enjoy my time and love cooking for people. So yeah, I'm going to add the boiling water, and I tend to cook the pasta for 1 minute from al dente so it can boil with the veg and the stock in the pan when I later on add the pasta to the pan. Here I am just adding a bit more hot water, some water to the pan, as I didn't have enough boiling water left over. But yeah, so now all we have to do is basically keep an eye on the food in the pan and stir occasionally as to not burn it to the pan. I was getting sick of the spoon, so I had to get a wooden spatula. So yeah, just make sure you are watching your food, as the early stages of cooking here is the most important. Anything other than that, it doesn't really matter. Once you add the stock in, it should be fine. But this is what your food should be looking like around now. It's not really cooked through at the moment, but we are going to be cutting in a few seconds to what the cooked version should look like. Be right back. So now we are at the cooked version of the food. Well, around about just before cooked. This is at the point where the chicken's basically cooked all the way through and the veg has started to soften. So now we're going to cut through to me adding the chopped tomatoes to the pan, as well as the stock. And then we're pretty much at the end of here, as this is everything that we need to add in. And as you can see, my stock cube wasn't fully dissolved, sadly, and I need to mix it in, which is fine. It happens quite a few times when you have a big jug and you can't really see the stock cube when you go to mix it in. But yeah, this is pretty much the majority of the cooking done. So we're going to add some black peppercorn. Sorry about my boxes. But yeah, we add quite a lot here, although the top of mine was quite loose, so nothing was really coming out. As you can see, I was really struggling, as my wrist is still a bit damaged, but it's okay. So we're just going to give it a few more cracks, and then it should hopefully be fine. Yeah, so I'm going to put the heat on around high as you can go on yours, as we basically just want this to boil down, and we're going to mix it all together so it's all evenly mixed. Your pasta should hopefully, depending on how long you've had it on, be coming to boil, and just give it the pan with the veg and the chicken a stir. And yeah, it's getting pretty hot in there, by the way, because I had a thick jumper on, and that's my own fault. But yeah, so in a second's time, I'm just going to cut over to what you should be looking like at the moment. So everything in the pan has been added, and all you have to do from now on is stir until it's boiled down properly, and keep an eye on the pasta, as make sure it doesn't overflow. But yeah, you can add any more seasonings that you want to taste. It's totally up to you, but it doesn't really matter. It's up to preference. But yeah, after a few more minutes, it should be looking like this. I'm going to take the pasta, and in around 10 more minutes, I will pour it in. I'm just going to cut to the clip so you can see at what level to put the pasta in the pan. So yeah, around this point in the cooking, you should be adding the pasta to the pan. I couldn't really mix it in, as there was too much in the pan, so I'd mixed it in the pasta bake tray. It's sadly just because I was cooking for quite a few people, and my arms aren't up to scratch to toss the pan. I would have done it anyway, but it's fine. So as I've put in the video, as I've just said, I'm going to mix it in the pan. That was what I was signalling at. So I'm going to use a spatula to put them in. Sorry, I did say it was hot, so I am quite sheltered here. You're going to layer some pasta and then add some cheese a few times. It's totally up to you whether you want to do this, but I like to layer mine. It just gives it a nice consistency and a good cheesy taste. And my family quite like cheese, so I thought I would do it for them. But yeah, this is basically the last section, and then you've got to put it in the oven. So yeah, I'm just going to show you what the process is, and hopefully you enjoy. You're going to put your pasta bakes in the oven for around 15 minutes each side. So you put it in 15 minutes and then you turn it around just to give it an even crisp on the cheese. So yeah, as you can see, I'm just finishing off the pasta bake by doing more layering, basically just to make it thickened out enough to put it in the oven without it like burning or anything. I'm just going to add the last bits of cheese and then cut to the end product. So I will be right back. So yeah, this is around the end of this pasta bake, and then here's the second one. I sadly forgot to record the end product of both of the pasta bakes, but they will be shown in the thumbnail. again, I do apologise, as I have took you this far throughout the video and somehow forgot to get the end product. I must have been way too hungry and wanted to eat it. But yeah, I hope that both of these are to your satisfaction, and when you try them, that you really enjoy it, as I make this a few times a week easily, as I really enjoy it. But yeah, this is the end product, and I've actually just put them in the oven for 30 minutes each, halfway rotating them. And yeah, thank you all so much for enjoying my video, and I love you all so much, and I hope that you all have the best rest of your evening and night, and I will have a good morning, evening, and good night, and I guess I will see you all later. Bye bye.